have a listen to this. There's something obvious here, which is Trump's absolute unfitness for office. But there's something also quite extraordinary given the context in which he has chosen to talk about Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Check this out.
The President of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia, everything about him is dumb.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. We're back to that little effigy made out of toilet paper that he's talking to in a private room off the Oval Office, because this is him in the Oval Office. Listen, for the avoidance of doubt, Gavin Newsom is the governor of California and Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America, right?
James O'Brien sat down with a stack of clips from a single day of Donald Trump, and he found he needed 4 words to organise them: deranged, dishonest, disgusting, desperate. It starts with the President of the United States calling a state governor the president and then calling him dumb. And it only gets stranger from there. Let's watch it together. And before I tell you to like and hit that subscribe button, please allow me the chance to earn that from you.
Here's the classic lie.
Other presidents should have done. I spoke to one of the former presidents who I actually like. I actually speak to some. I do like some people. Would be shocking. And he said, I wish I did what you did. Could have done it. Other presidents, somebody should have done it. 47 years this went on. They call Iran the bully of the Middle East.
So you have there an example of him being deranged and an example of him being a liar. Here's an example of him being both at the same time.
You know, if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, you would right now, well, Israel would be gone. It would be incinerated. And probably the Middle East likewise. And remember, they got all of those missiles. And I heard they were sending missiles to UAE. I said, that's strange. You know, UAE is like the banker for Iran. They're like the banker. Qatar, their neighbors, they got along okay. Saudi Arabia. All of a sudden, Kuwait is getting hit. Bahrain is getting, all these countries are getting hit. There was no expert that would say that was going to happen. It's not a question of like, gee, should you have known? And if we did know, big deal. I mean, we have to do what we have to do.
Deranged and lying there. Then we move on to, I think, mostly deranged. And this is, of course, what happens when deranged overshadows lying. This is him being deranged and you wishing, or at least hoping, that he's lying. So have a look at how well things are going in Iran and ask yourself what you'd do next.
I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, if tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change, you know. They won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba's seen the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now. They were for a long time. Very violent leaders.
Little echo there. I don't know if you picked up on it, on how he talks about women when he is owning up to sexually assaulting them for fun. You can do anything you want when you're famous. He's taken that attitude and now deployed it in the context of international relations. So we've got deranged, dishonest, deranged and dishonest, deranged. Here's disgusting.
Prime Minister of UK, United Kingdom, yesterday told me, I'm meeting with my team to make a determination. I said, you don't need to meet it with the team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make your own. Why do you have to meet with your team to find out whether or not you're going to send some minesweepers to us or to send some boats? I said, you don't have to meet with your team. It's the same thing here. I can tell you that when this is over, oil prices are going to go down very, very rapidly. So is inflation, so is everything else.
I mean, off the top of my head, people you might want to consult before undertaking a war like that would include your military and your lawyers. But Trump doesn't get it. I don't know whether that goes under deranged, dishonest, disgusting, or all three. And this is what happens when you are called upon to defend him. This is what happens when, as a member of the regime, you are called upon to defend the indefensible. Listen to Rick Scott trying to do precisely that.
If the Strait of Hormuz doesn't open, how are oil prices in the United States going to come down?
Well, it'll open eventually. I mean, eventually it's going to open. But in the meantime, we need to do what we're doing. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have ballistic missiles. Right?
How long do you think it could be closed?
How long is it going to take to make sure they don't have nuclear weapons? How long is it going to take to make sure they don't have ballistic missiles that can destroy Americans? They've been killing us for 47 years. This had to end at some point, and I don't want it on American soil. The president did the right thing. Do I want oil prices to come down? I want them to come down badly, just like everybody else. But I don't want to die, and I want people in this country to die of a nuclear weapon from Iran. They want to kill us. Let's be realistic here. The main goal here is destroy their ability to kill us.
Oh, desperate, actually. I suppose you go for the 4 Ds: deranged, dishonest, disgusting, and desperate. Donald Trump said in the previous clip that if Iran possessed nuclear weapons, they'd have used them. And then you've got Rick Scott popping up and claiming that, we've got to carry on bombing them to make sure that they haven't got the nuclear weapons that Donald Trump told us they would have used if they had them. And then the final thing is horrible, because this involves a politician who wasn't in the room. This is Trump with Mike Johnson discussing a diagnosis, a secret and private diagnosis that a Florida Republican called Neil Dunn had received. And this speaks to, pure disgusting, actually. I thought when I opened the show this morning we were just going to be jumping between deranged and dishonest, but of course if we talk about the cronies, then you bring in desperate, because Mike Johnson has to sit there grinning like an imbecile throughout this hideous exchange, and disgusting doesn't come close to what he has just done to Neil Dunn and his family.
Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida had some real health challenges, and it was very serious, and had a pretty grim diagnosis. And I mentioned it to the president, and I said, Congressman Dunn is a real champion and a patriot because he's still coming to work. And if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay. That's it was grim. That's what I was going to say.
You hear the groan. He's boasting about the fact that this guy is continuing to shore up his majority, despite the fact that he is in receipt of a diagnosis that says he'll be dead by June, or was in receipt of a diagnosis that said he'd be dead by June. And listen, the groan, I'm going to play that again, because the groan speaks to what I'm speaking about today. This is what happens even in a room full of sycophants, right? This is what happens when your brain can't quite engage quickly enough to stop your mouth from authenticity. This is an incredible moment, because everybody in that room is a sycophant. And just in that nanosecond, they can't disguise their disgust at what he's doing. This is what happens when you haven't got the space all the time, and you only need a split second to bolt on your smile, to pretend everything's normal, to do what the president wants. Listen to this again, because this is what happens when all of these hideous masks of sycophancy slip.
Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida had some real health challenges, and it was very serious, and had a pretty grim diagnosis. And I mentioned it to the president, and I said, Congressman Dunn is a real champion and a patriot because he's still coming to work. And if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay. That's it was grim. That's what I was going to say.
And the groan. That's people who are primed, programmed, and determined always to approve and to cheer everything the president does, even as they know he's lying. Just in that moment, they couldn't quite keep it together. They couldn't quite keep it in. So, when the evidence of his depravity and his derangement and his dishonesty is so absolutely clear, why do we all struggle to acknowledge it, articulate it, and report everything in the context of it?
James O'Brien opens with a stack of clips from a single day of Donald Trump, and he lands on a neat organising device to make sense of them. 4 words: deranged, dishonest, disgusting, desperate, and once you have the framework, the whole grim parade sorts itself. Start with deranged. Trump, in the Oval Office refers to Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, as the President of the United States, and then says everything about him is dumb, mocking a man for dyslexia and learning disabilities. O'Brien's point isn't just that it's cruel, though it is, it's that the president appears not to know who he is, or who he's talking about. As O'Brien puts it, it's like watching a man talk to an effigy made of toilet paper. Then dishonest. Trump claims a former president told him, "I wish I did what you did, someone should have done it." One of those conversations that never happened, the imaginary friend who always agrees with him. And then the two at once, Trump insists that if he hadn't torn up Obama's Iran nuclear deal, Israel would by now have been incinerated. Deranged and lying in a single breath, because he's describing a catastrophe that didn't happen as though he heroically prevented it. Then the Cuba clip, which is the one that should genuinely chill you. Trump muses about taking Cuba, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it, and O'Brien makes the connection that lands hardest. That phrase, "I can do anything I want," is the exact language Trump once used to boast about assaulting women. You can do anything when you're famous. He's taken that attitude, O'Brien says, and deployed it now in the context of invading a sovereign country. Then the desperate, which is what happens to the people who have to defend all this. O'Brien plays Senator Rick Scott tying himself in knots over the Strait of Hormuz, insisting oil prices will fall while the strait is closed, that they must keep bombing Iran to stop it getting the nuclear weapon that Trump, moments earlier, claimed Iran would already have used if it had one. The two defenses cancel each other out. That's what defending the indefensible does to a person. It makes them say two contradictory things in the same minute and hope nobody notices. And then the moment the whole thing builds to, and I'll handle it with the seriousness it deserves, because it involves a real man and his family. There's a Republican congressman, Neil Dunn, who received a grim, private, terminal diagnosis. And on camera, Speaker Mike Johnson recounts how Trump praised Dunn as a champion and a patriot for still turning up to work. Because others with that diagnosis, Trump apparently mused, would just go home and retire. A man's terminal illness turned into a boast about shoring up a voting majority. And listen to what O'Brien draws your attention to. The groan. In a room full of loyalists, primed to cheer everything, there's an audible, involuntary groan. And that groan is the most human sound in the entire clip. Because for 1 nanosecond, before they could bolt their smiles back on, even the sycophants couldn't hide their disgust. That's the tell. Their bodies reacted before their loyalty could override it. And here's the thesis, the thing the title's built on. O'Brien ends by asking the real question. When the evidence of the derangement and the dishonesty and the cruelty is this clear, this on the record, this undeniable, why do we all still struggle to say it plainly? Why does so much of the reporting reach for softer words, for balance, for the careful phrasing that makes it all sound normal? That's how he gets away with it. Not because the evidence is hidden, but because we keep flinching from describing what's in plain sight. The masks slip for a second. We all see it, and then everyone, the room, the cameras, the coverage quietly agrees to pretend we didn't. So no punchline today, because the done clip earns none. Just O'Brien's actual challenge, which is a fair one, say what you see. If that's worth passing on, give it a like, share it with someone who's tired of the softening, and subscribe if you'd like more. The groan told the truth. The trick is to keep telling it once the smiles come back.